Hey everyone, Ace of Clay here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another video. If you're new here, I'm a sculptor and normally I make a new sculpture every week, but today is my year in review video and I'll be going through every single sculpture I made in 2020. Alright, so I can't believe I'm already doing this again. Like, I feel like I just put my sculptures back from last year's video and I'm just bringing them out again. I feel like yesterday was March. I feel like this year was just a complete whirlwind that nobody saw coming, but I hope that in one way or another, my content has positively impacted your lives. Thank you so much for being here and watching my videos and seeing my sculptures. I could not do this without you, and I hope that you take something away from every single video of mine that you watch. And then at the end of this video, I will be sharing some of your work with everyone, whether you have completely replicated one of my sculptures from a tutorial or you made something that was inspired by my work. I am so excited to share this with everyone at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. It's gonna be good. And now let's get started with this Ace of Clay year in review. All right, let's start with this guy right here who is not mounted correctly. This is my evil wizard head. I really don't want to start this off on like a negative note, but he is definitely not my favorite sculpture. I know as an artist, we're gonna have pieces that we make that we love and pieces that we hate. This is definitely not one that I love. Towards the end, I just kind of gave up on him and I just kind of like threw the hair on and just called it a day. I had higher hopes for him because the Krampus bust that I made last year did pretty well and I got some good feedback on him and people liked that I made a bust that was bigger than my normal pieces, and I thought that I could like take the success of that and sort of replicate it in this guy, and that's not really the case. I don't know if people just don't like wizards as much as I do, but yeah, that's this guy. And next we have this guy, which is from a Wheel of Sculpture video, I believe my first Wheel of Sculpture video. He's just a mashup of a bunch of different traits that I asked my Twitter followers to provide to me, and he's just a really weird random creature. Not my best work again. We really didn't start the year off very strong, did we? Yeah, so, I mean, it was fun. I always like doing those videos because I never know what I'm gonna come up with, but I mean, this thing, I don't know about that. All right, next up, we've got this goblin guy, which is from a Sculpt This episode. If you're familiar with my Sculpt This episodes, it is where I take a subscriber's drawing that they submit to me and turn it into a sculpture. And this is probably one of my favorite ones that I've done. I think this is a really cool looking character. After 2 weeks of subpar sculptures, this guy kind of made me happy again because he came out pretty well. And also when I do the Sculpt This videos, I really take my time on them because I want to properly create someone's drawing and I don't want to take any liberties if I don't have to, and I want to just bring that two-dimensional drawing to life. And I think, like I said, I think I did a pretty good job with him. One of my favorite pieces based on a very talented subscriber's drawing. Next we have the Wendigo. I loved making this thing. He was requested left and right for the longest time. I remember like every video I would get at least a dozen comments from people saying like, make a Wendigo, make a Wendigo, make a Wendigo, make a Wendigo. And then when I did, all of you guys watched it and it was a pretty successful video right off the bat. So I was really excited about that and I really like how he turned out. He was a lot less complicated than I thought he was going to be. And I remember thinking that the skull was going to be so hard and take me forever because I've never really done an animal skull like this before, and it was actually pretty easy. Looked at a couple reference photos for that, but all in all, pretty happy with this guy. I know a lot of you liked him too. Next up, we've got the Gargoyle. This was the first like male torso that I've sculpted for YouTube and it came out pretty good. I think that the proportions are kind of off, but I guess that's okay given the style of him. He's not super realistic. He's more stylized, of course, like everything that I make. I like the wings. I hate sculpting wings. That is always just such a daunting task to me. I'd rather do anything. I'd rather sculpt hands. I'd rather sculpt calves. I'd rather sculpt really anything but wings, but some sculptures, you just gotta make them. All right, next up, we've got the Baby Grim Reaper. This was actually supposed to be the first in a series of sculptures where I recreate some of my characters as babies. This is one of those sculptures and tutorials that I put out there because I want people to recreate it. I want, like, no matter what your skill level is, I want it to be easy for you to make, and he actually got a lot of recreations. I'm still seeing them today. People are tagging me in their little Baby Grim Reaper sculptures, so I always like putting out a video like that every once in a while, even if he is much simpler than what you're normally used to from me. I think he's cute. I think he looks like a baby Grim Reaper. All right, next up we have Cerberus, which is the three-headed Hellhound, Hades dog. This is also another highly requested sculpture. I don't necessarily like sculpting animals that much. I'd much rather go like a humanoid route with something. But I mean, you know, I can't just do humanoids for the rest of my life. I got to do some animals. So I definitely didn't look forward to making him. But when I finished him in the end, I was really happy with it. The only thing that I would change now if I was to remake him would be to give him a different expression on every head instead of making them all the same like this. But all in all, when I was finished with him, I was extremely gratified and I felt pretty good when he was done. All right, next here, we've got the mountain troll. I love this guy. I think he's great. I think he's simple. He's got so much character. And I just remember the video didn't do well at all. Nobody liked him but me for the most part. But he got a lot of recreations. I know that. I just love this guy. I can see his story when I look at him. And I just think he's funny looking. And I like his little details. He's cool. I like him a lot. All right, next up we've got Slender Man. This is the first of my fan art sculptures of the year, my first creepypasta sculpture. This guy was fairly easy to make. Nothing too crazy. He's just like a really skinny guy in a suit, a little hunched over. That's how I depicted him. This year I really started to experiment with fan art and a lot of you received it very well. I enjoyed doing it. Sometimes it's a nice break because I don't have to think of anything. I can just copy something that already exists. So that's pretty nice. But with this guy, my goal was to kind of get into the creepypastas because I know those were really big back in the day and I thought, you know, let's give him a try. And he did pretty well, and I was really excited about that. One thing that I don't like about him is the tentacles. I wish I didn't put these on him, but I guess they do add something, and I think the main reason why I don't like the tentacles is because he's really big and clunky and takes up a lot of room. Next up, we have this demon sculpture. I think this is from another Wheel of Sculpture video. Or random character generator. Random generator too, yeah. My first random character generator sculpture. I thought that was kind of a neat, you know, new series to start. I didn't do a ton of them this year. I don't know why. I should have done more. I'll do more next year for sure. But this guy came out pretty cool. He's a compassionate demon. And another trait was that he's got to be ugly. A lot of you said that he's not ugly and you think he's attractive. And I tried showing the compassion by having him hold a rose. But I mean, he definitely looks like a demon. He looks like those demons from, remember Fantasia, the first one from way back in like the late 80s or early 90s, I don't remember, but he looks like the demons from that, so maybe I was like subliminally influenced by those. Like the very end scene with the big, you know, goblin demon guy, and then all the little demons are at the bottom. Yeah, I don't know. That's him, the compassionate demon. Next, we've got the Queen of Hearts, who ate some tarts, or whatever the poem is. She is hands down one of my favorite sculptures of all time. I think that her design is really cool. She's not my best performing video ever, but I think she's one of my best sculptures. I wish I would have put some more hearts on her. Like I probably should have put some, like a little heart pattern on this part of her dress here maybe, or like on the inside here, or like up here. But all in all, I really like her. She kind of reminds me of Tilly, my good witch. Maybe they're sisters. Who knows? I really like the wire for her hair, adding all those little like flyaways sticking out. And I don't know, I like her. I think she came out really good. Next one, we have this guy, which is from another Wheel of Sculpture episode on my list that I have over there that I wrote earlier. I have him written down as Pretty Wheel Birdman. After I do these videos, I get a ton of really good suggestions on how I could have made these sculptures better after the fact. Like a lot of you gave me some really good ideas on how to better incorporate like the robot aspect of this guy, or like how to show that it's pretty instead of like just giving it the long flowing hair. So I always think that's interesting. I think it's a really weird sculpture. I wish the eyes weren't sewn shut, and I wish it didn't have the long hair because I think he'd be kind of a cool character. But very steampunk, you know what I mean? Next up, we've got my Banshee. This is another adventure in Sculpey and cosplay. She's half Sculpey, half cosplay. The main body is rigid Sculpey, and all the detail parts in her hair and whatnot are the flexible cosplay. I love using cosplay and Sculpey together because there's really no limits to what you can do with both of them. I like it especially because I don't have to put armature in all of these little wispy pieces. Normally I would have to. The only thing I don't love about this sculpture is how the bottom just kind of stops and it's just flat. I wish that I would have like maybe made her as like a hanging piece or made the bottom of her dress a little more elaborate instead of just this like cone shape, but I like her from like the waist up. Next up we have Victor, which is another one of my all-time favorite sculptures with the Queen of Hearts that I made this year. This guy is a recreation of one of my very, very first sculptures. The original one's over there in the corner, up back there. I'm not gonna bring them down, but I really like how this guy turned out. I really took my time. I love this guy. I love this character, and his name's Victor. He's got a little pocket watch. There's a little newspaper. Everything about this guy is informed. He's inspired by the font Times New Roman. I actually created this character for my senior thesis, my senior year of college, and this is what he looks like. His head's shaped like a T. Get it? Times New Roman. His name's Victor, Times New Roman, whatever. Yeah, I really like this guy. One of my favorites for sure. All right, next up we've got Jeff the Killer. This is when I really started going hard at the creepypastas. I started with this guy. He's one of the more popular creepypasta characters, I believe. And he's got a pretty weird backstory. All the creepypastas are just weird. But they make good sculptures, not gonna lie. This is my first bloody piece. I normally don't like sculpting gore that much, but the character called for it, so I had to. This was a fan art piece, and I think he's cool. He started my little creepypasta series. Well, technically Slenderman did, but this is when I really had the intention of making the creepypastas their own series on my channel. So a lot of people really liked him. So Jeff the Killer. And next up we've got the Rake, which is another creepypasta character. Probably next to Laughing Jack, he is my personal favorite. He's just a weird Gollum-like guy and just kind of sneaks around at night. Acting all creepy. And I like his crazy tongue and his teeth, and I think his eyes glow in the dark. They do, they glow in the dark. Next up we have Siren Head, which is a very, very special sculpture. This is the first in my Trevor Henderson series. If you're not familiar with Trevor Henderson, he is an illustrator that creates all of these creepy characters, and he's got his kind of like own universe, and this is one of the more popular characters that he's designed, and he is my most successful video to date. My first one to hit 1 million views. I think he's sitting on like 3 million views right now. So that was really cool. And then he was also noticed by Trevor on Twitter. He retweeted my tweet announcing the video, and that was awesome. It's probably my most popular tweet too, I think. But yeah, Siren Head. He's a relatively simple sculpture, but I really wanted to capture all of the details that I know he was capable of having. I really wanted to get into all the little different nuances on him. I like the integration of the wire for the cables around his neck. He's got a little tongue sticking out here, his teeth. I think he's cool. I don't think I would change anything about him. Next up, another one of my favorite sculptures of the year, Laughing Jack. This is another creepypasta. He is just a creepy clown. I don't really remember his story, but I love how the sculpture came out. I like how he's sort of leaning to the side like that. I love the black and white stripes. I love his face. I just love how this guy turned out. I think he looks so cool. He's very like Tim Burton-y, which is right up my alley, and I just think he's cool. One of my absolute favorite sculptures this year. I remember just really enjoying the painting process on him because there were so many like little details to get into, and like his little overalls and his belt buckle. And next up here we've got Eyeless Jack, which is another creepypasta character. Right now we are in the middle of my creepypasta series that some people liked, some people didn't. If you didn't like creepypasta, you didn't really watch it, but I wanted to hit all the major ones, and I did, and we've moved on since then. But this is Laughing Jack. This was a pretty successful video too. I remember he got views really fast. A very simple sculpture, just a guy in a hoodie with that blue mask holding a knife. And next up here we've got Tiki Toby, which is the last of my creepypasta sculptures, I think. Yeah, I think he's either the last or one of the last. Again, just another guy in a hoodie with his little axes and his goggles. He was really fun to make because there are so many different depictions of him online. There's like an anime version, then there's like the one that looks more like this, and there's a lot of details and whatnot to choose from. I went with, I believe, a design I saw on DeviantArt that was popular back in like 2010. I could be totally wrong with that, but I really liked how he looked, and I think I did him justice. I like the stripes on his coat or on his hoodie, and you know, I made the blood shiny. He's a cool piece. I like him. Again, just another guy in a hoodie. And next up we've got Elvis, my little goblin guy that was the result of a monthly sculpting challenge in my Facebook group, Snakes of Clay. This guy is from a random character generator, and I actually sculpted him alongside everybody in the group. So basically, I posted a video getting the characteristics from the random generator, and then everybody in the group was able to sculpt the same thing, and it was really cool seeing everybody's different interpretations of the same characteristics. I played it kind of safe with mine, but overall, I like how he turned out. This was a nice change from the creepypastas. I know a lot of you guys liked that weren't really into the creepypastas, but all in all, he's cool. I like his little fake wool hair, and I like his name, Elvis. Next up, we've got this guy. This is my little steampunk owl with the glow-in-the-dark eyes and glass capuchon goggles. This was another simple tutorial that I put out for people to recreate no matter what your skill level. There are a lot of really cool techniques in this, and I always recommend it to people when they're not sure like where to start with polymer clay. You want to start making figurines, but you don't know what to do. This is a great place to start because like I said, there are a bunch of different techniques, and anybody can make this if you put some time into it. Next up, we've got SCP-096. Is this the first SCP I did? I think so. Yeah, this is my first SCP. Probably one of the more popular SCP characters, which is why I did him. He came out really cool. I enjoyed doing the anatomy on him, and I tried to stay as true to the description as possible. I know there's a bunch of different depictions of him online, and I think he's in like this like mobile video game. But yeah, he's creepy and I like him. Next up, we're back in the monster universe, and I've got the creature of the Black Lagoon, or from the Black Lagoon. Not gonna lie, this is my least favorite monster character from the classic like Universal Monsters. Probably one of my least favorite sculptures too. I like the head sculpt though. I think he's cool. I wish I would have made him a little bigger. He's kind of small in comparison to my other characters, but I mean, he gets the job done. I've also seen quite a few recreations of him too. That etch and pearl tool is definitely a lifesaver when it comes to making scales. All right, now this one I don't even want to talk about. He's so bad. He's SCP-106, or the Old Man. I gotta redo him because he is not only incorrect, he is just not a very well done sculpture. I remember I had like no time that week, but I still wanted to get a video out. I really need to stop doing that because I'm putting out like subpar content, but I don't like him. He's probably my second least favorite sculpture of the year. My first one we haven't gotten to yet, but he's terrible, and I kind of just want to throw him out. All right, next up we've got the Asanja, which is from my collaboration with Caitlin McCaig. That was a lot of fun. We have to do that again. Caitlin's just an extremely talented illustrator and character and creature designer, and she came up with this based on a random character generator that she ran, and I just told her it had to be creepy, whatever she made, and we got this guy. I think her drawing is definitely better than this, but he gets the point across. You know, we did that whole pre-bake the teeth technique again. Next here we've got Mr. Hyde. I really need to stop picking these up by their heads. Mr. Hyde, which is from the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He's another visit to my classic monster universe. I really like how he turns out. I like his little fingers. Those are always fun to make, and his nails. I definitely have to make Dr. Jekyll soon to go along with him. You gotta see what he looks like before he turns into this. Again, another cool technique with the wire for the flyaways in his hair. I just think he's a cool sculpt. Remember, the video didn't do too hot, but you know, sometimes you gotta just make something that comes to you. You don't have time to worry about what's gonna get views and what isn't. I wanted to make him, and I did, and I'm really proud of him. And I like him, and that's what kind of keeps me sane, because if I'm constantly making stuff that other people want to see and it's not necessarily stuff that I want to make, that's just a recipe for burnout, like right there. So I gotta do some stuff that I like every once in a while too. And next up, we've got one of the few customizations I did this year. This is my iPhone 11 Pro Max case that I did with this crazy alien design on it. I always like throwing these kind of sculptures in the mix every once in a while, just because it switches up my content, and a lot of you seem to like them. This guy's sitting on like 500,000 views right now, which is really cool. With stuff like this, it's so abstract that you don't have to worry about anything looking right, because you can really make anything work. There's no right answer. There's no, the arm's got to be that long or the head's got to be that big. This is just a blob of weirdness on a phone case that a lot of people like watching me make. So that's cool, and gotta love those color shift paints from Folk Art for those eyeballs there. I love those things. They work so good. Like, they say color shift like they mean it. Next we have Long Horse. This is my second Trevor Henderson sculpture. This guy was fairly simple to make, nothing too crazy, but I wanted to do another Trevor Henderson piece because Siren Head went over so well, and I believe he was like another one of his most popular characters, and a lot of people were asking for him, so I had to deliver. He was also noticed by Trevor himself. He retweeted my tweet for this guy, so that was cool, and I really like him. And next up we have my latest favorite sculpture of the year, Slendrina. I don't know what I was thinking with her. I don't know why I decided to make this thing. I thought that she'd maybe be in line with the creepypastas, like let's throw a female character in there, and I just don't like her at all, and I'm gonna stop talking about her now. And next up we've got the Dapper Skeleton, which is another pretty requested sculpture. A lot of people asked for a Dapper Skeleton, especially last year. Not so much this year, but I finally got to him. And I actually need to make a skeleton where I actually sculpt the ribs individually and stuff. I kind of like got out of that with this one, and I just gave him a tuxedo, but I gotta do a sculpture like that soon. Kind of reminds me of something from Corpse Bride. And he's got the same skull as my Grim Reaper sculpture from last year. I like him, and I like his tall top hat. All right, next we've got Hades. This guy is a mess in a lot of ways. This was one of those situations where I was like in the middle of sculpting him, and I didn't like it, but I was too far along to go back, so I just kept going and just finished him. There are some elements of him that I like I really like how I sculpted his torso. I like where this armor is going. I don't necessarily like where it went, if that makes sense. I really like the design of this thing. I would do that again for sure. His hands could use more detail. I wish that I wouldn't have just made the whole head a skull. I wish it would have been a mask. I like the big horns. I really like how I did the fabric in the back here, and then the fabric on his robes in the front here. I just think there's a lot of things that could use some reconsideration here and reworking. And next we've got the Tooth Fairy, which is one of my favorite sculptures. I think she came out pretty good. I like her little details and stuff. I like the dragonfly glaze again on her dress, adding another level of dimension there. Love her wings. This was a little mini collab with Fairies and Fancies, who's my friend from Instagram. She designed and cast these wings that she uses on her artwork, and I thought it would be the perfect addition to a Tooth Fairy sculpture. I really like her, and I like that she's hanging. Like, I like doing hanging sculptures like that. This is the only one I did like that this year too. That's weird. It's nice because you don't have to worry about like getting them to stand up right. Then next up we've got my last Trevor Henderson character, Cartoon Cat. This guy is based on a like 1950s cat character, kind of like Felix the Cat going on here. I was informed that he doesn't have feet, and I added feet, so that's a mistake. But overall, I think he's an okay sculpture. He kind of reminds me of like those robot characters that would sing at Chuck E. Cheese. Do you remember that? Or do you remember Major Magics? You know what I'm talking about. Then next up, we've got the janitor from the video game Little Nightmares. I love this guy. I think he came out really good. A lot of people were asking for him, and I actually hadn't heard of Little Nightmares before I started this guy. So I actually went and I bought the game, and I played it with my brother a little bit. And it's a really cool game. The detail is like impeccable. I love everything about it. I haven't had a chance to play it too much after making this guy, but it's really cool, and I definitely want to get back to it. But I really like this guy. I think I did justice to him, and he's just really weird. What a weird character. His like face is falling off, but I think he's cool. And I definitely want to make more Little Nightmares characters in the future, especially with the second one coming out. I have to see if that's out or if it's still coming out. And next up, we've got my second customization of the year, which is my creepy eyeball fleshy sketchbook cover. Like I said with the phone case, these are always fun to make, switches up my content, and it kind of gives me a break because they don't take me too long. I'll be doing more of these in the future. And then next up, we have that miniature graveyard scene. I actually don't have that one anymore. I gifted it to someone. But I really like that sculpture. Relatively simple, got a ton of remakes, and I think you guys really enjoyed seeing me make something that wasn't like a character. It was actually like a little environment, and I'm really glad that I did it because that opens up so many more doors now, and I know that you are interested in that type of content, so we're definitely going to be seeing more of that in 2021, I promise. Then expanding on the graveyard scene, I made this little fountain, and I shared with you my flowing water technique that I like to use with resin. I think this came out pretty good. I like it, very sturdy, especially with all that resin in there, holding it all together. Yeah, it's a cool sculpt. I got a lot of remakes of this too. A lot of people made it with like different colored water, changed up the paint colors a little bit, but very happy with this guy. Next, we've got the Pumpkin Reaper. This is one of my favorite sculptures of the year. He's based on one of those gemmy inflatables that you can get at like Home Depot or wherever, those little blow up things you put on your front lawn. I love this guy. I think he's got so much character, and this is the first time that I used that fabric hardening technique with the Mod Podge, but I like how he turned out. I really like his face. He also got quite a few recreations too, if I'm remembering correctly. And next up, we've got the Swamp Witch. She's one of my favorites. I just think she has so much character. Also was able to use that fabric hardening technique again. I like the little skulls hanging off here, crazy staff. I just think she's great. I love her. I got a lot of positive feedback on her from people who really like her. This is the only witch that I made this year, I think. Now we're getting into the Nightmare Before Christmas with Oogie Boogie. This is one of my favorite characters from the movie, of course, and I know a lot of you like him a lot too. I wanted to keep him as movie accurate as possible. I decided to make him in his burlap color rather than green. I know green is just like a lighting thing, but there's a lot of like merch and stuff that depict him in his green colored form, but this one, I just wanted to keep it original, and I could always, you know, change the lighting on him to make him green, like I did in the end shots of the video, but he's cool, I like him, but he is not to scale with my Jack and Sally sculptures that I'm about to show you, so that kind of stinks, but I mean, if he were to scale with them, he'd be like this tall. Next up, we've got one of my favorite characters of all time, the perfect follow-up to Oogie Boogie, Jack Skellington. I love how this guy turned out. I remember when I made him, I wanted to make sure that I was as true to the character as possible. I thought he was a great finale for Halloween this year, and I'm really glad I made his mouth open with his little teeth. The hardest part about this thing was probably painting all those pinstripes. But overall, I'm extremely happy with this guy, and I definitely want to keep going on those Nightmare Before Christmas sculptures. There's so many more that I've got to make. I eventually would like to have made every character from the movie, so we'll get closer to that goal next year. Next up, we've got my little Monster Clay vampire bust, which is based on my Dracula sculpture from 2019. This is the Monster Clay from Jazz's sculpture box. I had a lot of fun reviewing that and making a video in that format. I really like Monster Clay. I do prefer a clay that I can paint because I'm not really into like molding and casting things, but it's a very fun clay to work with, and it has a really cool texture. Very like waxy, takes detail great, but definitely serves its purpose, and I know why people love it so much. Next up, we've got Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas. She is one of my favorite sculptures of the year. She took me a really long time to make, and I actually ended up taking a week off so I could do her justice, but I think she came out really good. I'm happy with her. I'm glad that I used the cosplay for her hair because I was able to paint behind it. I just think she came out really cool. The only thing I can't believe that I did was I forgot to put the stitches on her legs. I don't know how I forgot to do that. One day I'm gonna break her legs off and redo them because I put way too much time into this thing to forget to put the stitches on her legs. Next up, we've got the Demogorgon from Stranger Things. This guy was a lot of fun to make. I think I'm saying the same thing for everything, but it's the truth. This one was a lot of fun to make. A lot of really good reference photos out there of the Demogorgon, including the show itself. I remember the one I looked at most frequently was the life-size Demogorgon figurine that you can buy from Spirit Halloween. That's who this one's really recreated after, but I like how he turned out. I think I did the character justice. And next up, we've got the Grinch, everyone's favorite hater of Christmas. Not too much to say about this guy. I just made him, and I think he turned out pretty good. I kind of wish I would have put both of his arms on his hips. I think that would be a little more interesting. I'm glad I did the book depiction of him. Maybe next year I'll do like the Jim Carrey version. And then last, but certainly not least, we've got the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come from A Christmas Carol. This guy, I just finished him up a few days ago. I think he turned out pretty cool. Relatively simple, but he tells a story. He's got that whole story behind him. Again, we got that hardened fabric technique here, and then I put the little tombstone that kind of brings in the dioramas that I was doing in October. And I think he turned out pretty cool. Very simple, but effective. All right, now let's put all of them up on here so you can see them all together. All right, now for my top 5 favorite sculptures of 2020. In 5th place, we've got Laughing Jack. In 4th place, we've got the Pumpkin Reaper. 3rd place, we've got Mr. Hyde. 2nd place, we've got the Queen of Hearts. And in 1st place, my favorite sculpture of 2020 is my Jack Skellington, of course, but it's really close between him and Sally. I just didn't want to put them both in like 1st and 2nd place, so I'll pick Jack, my favorite character ever. And that is a wrap, everyone. Be sure to stay tuned until the end of the video so I can share some of your sculptures with everyone. Again, thank you so much for watching and being here and making 2020 so amazing. I could not do this without you. I had an absolute blast creating every single one of these sculptures, and I can't wait to see what 2021 brings. I know I've got a lot of really cool stuff planned already. We're going to be doing more product collaborations. I've got some new ideas for sculptures, of course, and then we're going to be exploring some new video formats, and of course I'm going to get a second camera because I really need one. But all in all, thank you so much for watching and being here. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next year on January 8th. That will be my first video of the year, so see you then.